On today's Locked On Texans podcast, Cody had an opportunity to speak with Azeez Al-Shaair, signed in the offseason linebacker. He will be talking Texans and development in the young players. Also, Henry T, year two. What does that look like? We dive into all of that on today's Linebacker Show. Started.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers, to today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners and viewers. Do us three favors, if you don't mind. Subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, thank you to all of our returning guests coming back to listen to Cody and myself talk Texans. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I'm your Texans football analyst, John, some sports guy Hickman. On the other side of the screen, Texans Credential Media member, Sports Illustrated's own Cody Davis. Take us away.
And on this latest episode of Locked On Texans, we will be joined by Azeez Al-Shaair, who is going to give us a sample and some information on Campbell's chunky, spicy, Nashville-style hot chicken soup. And not only that, he's also going to give us why you made that face.
What?
It's actually pretty good. See, this is how the interview came about. He's sponsored by Campbell's soup. They have a new flavor coming out, and it's called Chunky Spicy. Exactly, especially with Donovan McNabb. Shout out to a legend from the 2000s. But the new flavor that Campbell is coming out is called Chunky Spicy Nashville-Style Hot Chicken Soup. And John, I'm telling you, it's good. It's going to be in stores pretty soon, and the start of the retail price will be $2.99. But
look at you,
exactly. Hey, it's good. You know, if I'm promoting it, it's good. It's definitely good, especially if you like spicy food. But in addition to promoting Campbell's new soup flavor, Azeez is definitely going to also have an opportunity to talk about the Houston Texans, why he signed with this franchise throughout the offseason, and he's going to share his thoughts about working alongside Henry T and Christian Harris. So Azeez is here today on Locked On Texans to tell us about Campbell's chunky, spicy Nashville-style hot chicken soup. Azeez, what can you tell us about Campbell's new product?
Man, it's so funny because I see you clearly. You tried the product out already. I see the can.
Yeah. I actually have a little spoon right here. You mind if I try some?
Oh man, no, look, I got my own cans and I got one of them right here. I think one of the things about just this new line that they have of Nashville style hot chicken soup is just. It has so much flavor in it. I tell the story already, but for me coming into Nashville, and all you saw was Nashville hot this, Nashville hot that. So I'm like, what the heck is Nashville hot? And then when I first tried it, it's like I just got hooked on the Nashville hot. So honestly, this is like awesome for me, that they have this flavor because I already love like just that Nashville hot flavor, the spicy, the savoriness. And then also, it has 13 grams of protein. So it's something for a guy like myself, just making still getting the protein that I need, to be able to fuel myself to, train and play in these games. But also get the good flavor, that everybody wants. A lot of times you're eating food that has good protein and is good for you, but it tastes kind of crappy. So this is the perfect to have the best of both worlds for sure.
Awesome. Sounds good. I just tried something. Let me tell you guys something. He isn't lying when they start talking about that Southern heat that they're bringing because it kind of sneaks up on you. Did it sneak up on you as well?
I think just like I said, just knowing Nashville hot, I know what to expect now. But when I first tried Nashville hot in general, for me for sure.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Campbell's been partnering with each other for over a year, right?
Yes, sir.
What can you tell us about the partnership?
Oh yeah, so we basically started working together about a year ago, and it was mostly focused on like community, food insecurity, just giving back to the community. And I think all the things that they stand for, and just like really just align with who I was and who I am as a person, and the same things that I cared about. So I think that it just made that partnership very like seamless. So yeah, like going from that, and doing all that work, community work, to now being a part of helping them, push this new flavor that they have. It's just pretty cool because it just shows the growth, over a year's time. So yeah.
I think it's pretty cool and ironic in the sense that you are promoting a new flavor that has the word Nashville in it because you did play for the Tennessee Titans. But what can you share about your decision to join the Houston Texans this offseason? Because a lot of people know you almost made this decision about a year ago.
Yeah, so it's just funny because pretty much the same reason why I decided to go to Tennessee is the same reason why now I decided to go to Houston. I think at the time, Houston, was where I was just assuming to go, just because me and DeMeco being so close, and it just was like, okay, like this is probably going to be where I end up. I think everybody that was a part of that San Francisco tree that knew me or DeMeco was like, yeah, Azeez is going there, Azeez is going there. But when it came to, time to make that decision, from a monetary standpoint, it just didn't make sense at the time. And like I said, me and Nick didn't have a relationship at the time. And if you're just coming in and you're telling them, hey man, I need you to pay the third string linebacker from San Francisco $10+ million, I'll look at you crazy too if I was the one making that decision. So, like I said, it was never like any hard feelings. Obviously it was just business. So, I made the best decision at the time going to Tennessee with Rand, who's a good friend of mine as well, who gave me a great opportunity to go in, and Coach Vrabel as well. Just grateful for the opportunity to go in there and be able to lead a group of men, and just, put, my abilities on display. So then you fast forward, the very next year, and pretty much same situation, but other way around. Obviously I had proved myself and felt like I did not everything that I wanted to do, but, enough to garner, obviously a higher paycheck. And I think when it came down to this, it just was more money that I ended up receiving, more guarantees that I ended up receiving. Just overall was a better situation going to Houston than if I stayed in Tennessee. And so, yeah, I definitely didn't anticipate leaving, truthfully. But it's just that's the way that ended up working out. So at the end of the day, everybody is trying to provide for their families. So I'll never like fault a or a coach or whoever who makes that best decision for their family. So
You talked about, you coming from San Francisco. It's also where Coach DeMeco Ryans came from. I know for me, as a credential media member, I've enjoyed getting the opportunity to get to know Coach DeMeco Ryans, but only here in Houston. What can you share about, how you have seen DeMeco Ryans grow as a coach, and what can you say about his teaching? Because the one thing, whether I'm talking to Jimmy Ward, whether I'm talking to Christian Harris or everybody else in the locker room, they always talk about his willingness and his love for teaching.
I think that's the biggest thing. Because you it's so funny, but like one thing I tell guys now, I tell a lot of the guys is like, bro, coach is coach because they can't play. There's not a coach that I truly don't think there's a single coach that will sit there and DeMeco obviously is, in my opinion, the best example of it. Is like if he could, he'd go out there and play tomorrow. And I that's the type of mentality that he has. It's just like this urgency, and he talks about it all the time. But sense of urgency, he used to beat that into my head when I was a rookie. Me and Dre Greenlaw, all the time. Sense of urgency, and so he takes so much time to make sure that you know what you're doing, because for him, it's everything. And so at the beginning, it's so like friction, because you're just like, bro, what's wrong with this man? Like I remember he used to be me and Dre like all the time. And I mean, it'd be times when he ready to just like slap him upside the head. And you just don't understand, the NFL, man, the window is so small. He's somebody we're watching, my I got a lot of family from Philadelphia, and so I remember watching him when he was playing for the Eagles, and, you just think like that time frame goes by so fast. The window closes so quick. Even you look back, my rookie year, I played for San Francisco and we went to the Super Bowl, and I thought, man, it's just gonna happen all the time. I've never been back to this, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you got to take full advantage of every opportunity. I think that's just how he is. He's so passionate about everything that he does, and I think it's just because he knows, and understands like how the NFL works. So I think that was probably like he's the best teacher that I could have possibly had or asked for in those early years, because he allowed me to be able to like pick that up. Where I feel like you meet a lot of guys and they don't have, the hardest thing to get by or get through a rookie's head or a young guy's head is like, bro, you don't have time. You think you got time, but you really don't. And so many people's lives change based off of this game. So I think that's a lot to speak on, when you talk about, you ask me about how he is and everything like that. But like, man, he really is like a great leader, amongst men. And, I think it's everything that he's gotten, he's deserved, that he's worked his butt off for. So, I'm just grateful to be able to be a part of it, and grateful that he was able to coach me for those years then, and, happy to be back with him.
Had an opportunity to watch you, start developing a relationship with Christian Harris doing OTAs and mandatory minicamp. What can you share about your, time with Christian Harris as of right now? And does it, matter in a sense where you and Christian Harris line up on the field together?
Yeah, so it's cool because, Christian, I remember it was an interview, I think, or something I saw with DeMeco where he was last year. He was saying like Christian Harris was like the most explosive linebacker he's ever coached. And I'm sitting there like, really? Like, it kind of, because to me, that was a bold statement to make, just in the sense of like, obviously the guys that he's coached. And so I'm like, to me, it was always, Dre Greenlaw, like, pound for pound. Like me, Dre, and Fred would talk about it all the time. Like, Dre was just in that aspect of just like explosiveness. Like it was Dre. When he said that, it was like, dang, like it kind of like, I'm like, okay, I'm watching, really like see what this is about. So, now being here and being with them, obviously he's always looked up to me, Dre, Fred, just because that's the game that he studied and watched. And man, like explosive, like he literally is literally that, explosive as heck. And I think that's just like something I try to get through his head, because he always tells me, man, I'm trying to get like you. I'm trying to get like you. I'm like, listen, bro, you like you have all the ability to maximize this and take it as far as you want. Now I'm here to help you just lock this in, because the physical, I don't think he don't need to touch another weight. He don't need to do nothing. He's strong enough, fast enough. So it's like for him, just which I'm really really happy that I'm able to work with him, just because he reminds me a lot of myself, just from like where his mental is. Sometimes he used to, like when me and Dre used to be younger, kind of had that loose screw. Where you need that loose screw, but you gotta be able to like find a balance between being amped up, but also being locked in. And so I think me obviously being in my 6th year now and have already overcome that aspect of my emotions and my career, being able to help him lock that in, because I think the sky's the limit for him. I really do like our group, talk about Henry as well. I really like Henry a lot, just like obviously coming in as a rookie and the situations that he was put in. I think it's just a lot to ask for as a rookie to run the show. And I think for the time that he was in there, he did a really good job. So, I know that they both are very like, oh man, like try to like walk light and be very humble. Yeah, but I let them know, like, man, you gotta have some confidence about you. And listen, I can show you clips of me and Dre and Fred doing a lot of bad things that we probably should have been doing on the field. Like, so it happened. You're gonna make mistakes, but just feed off of that confidence and keep working your butt off, and you'll get all the things that you want.
Campbell, chunky, spicy, Nashville-style hot chicken soup. Is there anything else you would like to share about this new flavor, which will be in stores soon at a retail price of $2.99?
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much hit everything. The only other thing I guess I would say is it's not in stores yet, but you can get it on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
So yeah,
And
if you
Prime
go
Day
on,
is soon. I want to say July. I can't remember the date, but it's coming up soon in the next couple of weeks, if
yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
So like I said, they have a link to it. You can get it online on Amazon. But yes, it's obviously very, very good. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, my guy.
No problem. Take care.
Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. That was Azeez Al-Shaair, newly acquired linebacker from this great offseason for the Houston Texans. I think he's going to be a major piece to this defense to get them over the hump. We talked about players coming over, getting this team over the hump. I think he'll be one of those pieces. I like how he just described playing alongside Christian Harris. And one thing that I think my biggest takeaway is it doesn't matter where they're going to line up, right? Will, Sam, Middle. It doesn't matter. Those two linebackers, I think, are so interchangeable with one another. I'm excited to see how they'll play. They both have the ability to cover sideline to sideline. They both have the ability to take away the flats or the curls. And so they both have the ability to, I think, kind of when you look at a cover three aspect of the linebackers, I think that's what they will thrive the most. But Cody did get into year 2 development for Henry T. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. But first, I want to let you guys know about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The winning formula for championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into power, speed, or style, or all three, listen, guys, eBay has you covered. eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time. Or, here, take your money. Take your money back. You got it. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. To Al-Shaair's point, Cody, we have not talked about a year 2 development for Henry T a lot here on this show. And I mean, I've even called it a thin linebacker room. And I also think once you get past Henry T, that's when you start kind of looking at the thinness of it in terms of experience. Also in terms of players you believe that can come in and not necessarily have a drop-off in play. However, a little bit of a roller coaster ride for Henry T his rookie year. Had some good moments, had some bad moments. Also was pulled from getting playing time. Now going into year 2, talking about the development, rough year for his rookie year. What are some of the things in terms of development-wise that you are looking to see from Henry T, or just overall, I guess, for year 2 development for Henry T?
For me, just overall, just getting back to the player that Coach DeMeco Ryans and General Manager Nick Caserio raved about when they first brought him here to Houston over a year ago. And, the one thing that I love the most about my conversation with Azeez, I love how the way when he started talking about Henry T, he did not shy away from stating that Henry went through a lot throughout his rookie season. And to me that was very telling, and it kind of revealed that a lot of these rookie prospects, this is why, John, you heard me say this before, this is why I love how you and I and Sarge and DJ and Jonathan cover these young prospects that we have. It's like, we have this saying, we give players 3 to 4 years to prove to themselves what they can actually be in the league, because yes, we are looking at these guys to be franchise cornerstones and how they're going to improve the team, especially when you have a team like the Houston Texans going back a year or two ago when they are trying to fill in and bring in young talents and develop them and seeing what they're going to do and how are they going to get a franchise back to relevancy. You remember how hype all of us was when the Houston Texans drafted Henry T during the 2023 NFL draft, especially coming off a year when you already added Christian Harris. And he started off the season getting a lot of snaps, a lot of valuable playing time. But as the season went on, we saw less and less of Henry T. And then by the end of the 2023 season, the only time we saw him was on special teams. And even though I started to get a sense then, what Al-Shaair had alluded to was the fact that this young man, literally, when you talked about the struggles that he went through throughout his rookie season, he's actually talking about the struggles that he went through trying to get a hold of an NFL playbook and trying to establish himself on an NFL level. Because the one thing that I didn't want to look past is the fact that when you still take a look at the product of what Henry To'oTo'o can be for the Houston Texans, I still believe, kind of similar to what we say about Jalen Petrie in a way, I still believe that that young man is talented, and I still believe that that young man has an opportunity to make his stamp on this team and help this team get to where they want to be, championship contention. Remember yesterday we had a conversation on whether or not making the conference championship game, is it a must for this organization? Like, it's definitely going to come down to someone like Henry T taking that step. And John, I know you and I have talked about, whether or not the linebacking room is thin. You just alluded to it. But to me, I've always said it all depends on the year 2 development of Henry T. If he's going to take that year 2 step that we're all hoping that he's able to take, then you're looking at a situation where that linebacker room is going to thrive. Then you're looking at a situation where your front 7 is definitely going to be on one accord and help contain the quarterback, help stopping the run, help making sure that you do whatever you need to do to improve your passing defense. It's all going to come down to Henry T. And I think the fact that he had an opportunity to take that step back, develop, learn, and now you're pairing him with somebody like Azeez Al-Shaair, somebody who had to go through the gauntlet of his career, and also somebody who has experience playing in Coach DeMeco Ryans' system a little bit longer than Henry T does. That's going to help and benefit him a lot. So I love the fact that Azeez highlighted Henry T in terms of playing alongside him, man. And after having that conversation with Azeez, I truly believe that Henry T is in for a really special year in year 2.
Yeah, and I think this year, when we look at the expectations of this team, what we consider special, what we consider improvement, what we consider success, whether it be team based, whether it be offensive side based, defensive side based, or player based, I think we have to look at milestones or small increments of getting better, because overall this is a loaded team, right? For Henry, I think what I would consider success is, him being that trusted rotational linebacker. That's number one. I'm looking at it right now. Started week 2 through week 8. Missed week 7, but basically between week 2 and week 8, he started. Week 9 came off the bench. Then he missed 3 games. Then it was week 12 coming off the bench, week 14, week 16, and then week 17. So in between missing games, in between not getting any playing time defensively, there was a lack of trust, I think, for him on the field. And when you look at the Atlanta game, he played in a total of 74 snaps according to PFF. That was a rough game for him. And this is according to PFF as well, but I do remember that game. That was a rough game for him in terms of dropping back in coverage. They're saying that he allowed 125 yards, 14 yards per catch, and 1 TD. You have to be careful with PFF's numbers. However, that was a rough game for him, right? He's had games where he's allowed 14 yards per catch, 14 yards per catch, nearly 17 yards per catch. Only 2 catches here in the Jacksonville game, but nearly 32 yards per catch. Dropping back in coverage, I think, has been his Achilles heel in his rookie year. I like how he plays downfield. He did miss around 16 tackles last year, but that's something that you can clean up and just get better at. As a rookie, just getting adjusted to the NFL speed. And he wasn't the highly, scouted rookie coming out of the NFL draft, was a 5th-round pick. So the expectations of him being elite in one area was never attached to his name. But he has some room where you can improve in terms of, dropping back in coverage, and you like what he can do against the run. There was a game last year, tackle-wise, 10 tackles, 6 tackles, 6 tackles, right? And that's not included the assisted tackles. He has the talent, but in order for him to take that next step, do you guys remember how up and down Christian Harris's rookie year was and dating back to his sophomore year was, specifically in terms of dropping back in coverage?
Mm-hmm.
So how can that coaching staff get the best out of him? Will it be, on 1st and 2nd downs, we may trust you a little bit more compared to 3rd downs? Will it be, we like to utilize you a little bit more to get after the quarterback or to create more pressure, right? Will it be, we may like you to just be a decoy on the play, right? Well, you never know, especially yesterday's show, we talked about the additions on the defensive side of the ball, how much of Matt Burke and DeMeco Ryans' defense can be unlocked now when you have a player like him. They may turn him into a skill set player. Well, we want to get you on the field because you have a certain skill set that we believe can exploit offenses. I'm not sure. Training camp is going to be that time where we'll start to see, okay, how is this team utilizing Henry T? And I think that's going to be a good battle, right? Him battling against other guys that were brought in. Max Tooley is a name that you said had a very good camp for Houston.
Yeah, he did.
He had a good camp for Houston. And Henry T, how can you battle out the newcomers? How can you battle out any guy that was already here aside from Christian Harris? But development for him, I think, as a player-based development is going to be getting better with dropping back in coverage. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Before we close out today's show, we hopping over to the YouTube comments where the world of words never cease to impress me. At 281 H-Town. This was an hour ago, actually, on the what are the primary areas Houston Texans need to improve on show. He said, Mr. Hickman, happy birthday, bro. I'm going to start off by saying this team is already built for this postseason, and they should have no worries for improvement with $18 million left in cap to start the season. We have not talked about that, and I believe that's my guy X. The positions I'm concerned about are in-depth linebacker, the interior of the defensive line, and somewhat the secondary. Texans are in good hands with management and coaching who can definitely get this team what it needs to try and get this organization to the promised land. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I am in agreement to that. We have not talked about the amount of money Houston has left in salary cap. But the one time we did, Cody, the one thing we agreed on was be on the lookout for the major cut down day that the NFL has now this year.
And that's definitely what they're saving it for.
They're saving it for when players get cut, because it's not necessarily for Houston. Let me look at it like this. It's not necessarily for when players get cut, but it's also to see who didn't meet our standards that we are going to have to cut. And when we have to move on from those guys, you got to look at it. How many of those guys are going to be big contract guys? So we're going to have $18 million to sit back and say, well, this player was cut, this player was cut. Were they cut because of age and they have a younger player? Were they cut due to personal reasons? Were they cut due to play decline? Why were they cut? Let's look at the film. Did they produce in preseason? Do we believe that they can come in and fit our scheme? And I think a lot of people are looking at cuts on the defensive side of the ball because I think a lot of people are looking at holes that can be filled for this team on the defensive side of the ball. The one and $18 million left for Houston to use, but the one thing that's been baffling me is both Justin Simmons and Quandre Diggs are available right now. Also, as we talk about Henry T, Shaq Leonard declined his play last year. He's still available, but there's going to be players out there that I think Houston is going to look to utilize that money for once the season actually looks like it's around the corner, that cut down date after that third preseason game. That's why I think we're going to see a lot of shift from Houston. Big Mike 777. I think we will average 28 to 31 points per game if we stay healthy. We have the talent to do it. 3 1,000-yard receivers, 1 1,000-yard rusher, a tight end at 600-plus yards, along with 2, maybe even 3 double-digit sack players.
3?
Maybe they're looking at DeMeco Ryans.
That's what I'm saying. 3?
Well, he had 11 and a half last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a career year as well.
Yeah. Take it away.
No, I was gonna say that hey, if that happens, John, CJ Thorne, what I say for 6K?
You said 6,000.
6K.
All right, man.
No,
I think
but honestly,
does Drew Brees have the most in one season?
I want to say yes. If it's not him, it might be Dan Marino. I want to say because Dan got some stupid numbers. Drew Brees got stupid numbers. And I think Joe Montana got some stupid numbers as well.
Let's see real quick.
But
Peyton Manning still holds it from that record-breaking year, 5,400 yards.
54?
Yeah, 5,477.
Okay, so two-part question. One, well, let me answer the first comment first. This is what expected. Like, I've came on this show several times and said, I know some people might hear that comment and read that comment, just think to yourself, you're just a fan, wishful thinking. But until you see CJ Stroud take the field with Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, it opens up how dangerous this offense can be.
Right.
And everything that he just said, especially considering that if we keeping it a buck and if this offensive line can stay healthy, they're going to be taking the field with a projected top 10 offensive line as well. It's possible. It's possible that the Houston Texans on the offensive side of the ball can definitely get numbers like that. Now, my next point is, John, I know I was joking around about, the 6K. But and maybe we can revisit this one day next week, but do you think CJ can actually break that all-time record that Peyton Manning has for the most passing yard in the season?
It's possible. 17 games compared to 16. It's possible.
And look, he threw for what? 4,500 as a rookie. And that was with you losing, your second best wide receiver, the offensive line going.
Didn't have a third best wide receiver.
You really didn't, and then not to mention, you also got to consider jumps that we've already been seeing throughout OTAs and mandatory minicamp in terms of
from everybody.
From John Mechie, from Xavier Hutchinson, from even Jared Wayne, like Brevin Jordan is back there. Like, hey, this is about to be an all-time. If they could stay healthy, man, and if Bobby Slowick does not limit what this team can do, and I say limit, I'm not talking about the way he's designing and calling packages. No, I'm talking about opening the playbook and keeping it open. We could be looking at an all-time offensive team right now.
Somebody called me, My Life Remix called me Donald some sports guy Lawrence, and I had to look that up. And I kid you not, I've been hearing this type of joke for my whole life. He is a
gospel singer.
Yeah,
that's because you were singing "The Best Is Yet to Come."
Yeah, I love that song, by the way. But hopefully we can sing that when the Texans win the Super Bowl. That'll be good to hear, man. They also said this from my boy Tom Walker and a lot of people. They also said you were dodging their question the other day about.
I wasn't dodging no question. I answered it. I said there's only one team that I'm gonna have an opportunity to go inside the locker room and watch them pop champagne, record it, have my suit smelling like champagne. There's only one team. That's going.
Please don't pull a Chris Bosh. Don't do that. Hey, listen, man. Thank y'all for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Give me a follow on Twitter at John_Hickman12. You guys enjoy the rest of your week.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at Cody Davis _24. Once again, that's Cody COTY DAVIS _24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.